I'm not going to lie, ladies and gentlemen. I said I had a surprise. And I felt like I hooked a good surprise for today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy. We had Chris Phillips on from SEC Unfiltered. Go and check him out. He's wonderful. He is great. But this is just a legendary episode. And I was in communication with him. We finally got him on. We're ready to rock and roll. Guys, you're going to love this episode today. Welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I am Joel Norris. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, Apple. Share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. You'll find tweets about me, college football, you name it. You're also going to find the website as well for www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. That is our website for all things Pigskin Frenzy. Very special guest today. Thankful for the Lord, by the way, to just delivering Pigskin Frenzy to us. Without Jesus, we would not be here, and we would not have very fun guests like this one. We have in our midst a legend in our midst. He is from Fox Sports. He had stints at ESPN, also for CBS Sports. He is the one, the only Hall of Fame broadcaster, Mr. Tim Brando. Mr. Brando, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great, Joel. It's great to be with you. You caught me at a really good time because this time next week, I will be on an airplane to Lawrence, Kansas, ready to have toe meet leather and start the college football season on Fox on Saturday the 23rd. Devin Gardner, Josh Sims, our sideline reporter, and I will be on hand at the brand spanking new Kansas Jayhawks Stadium in Lawrence for the Jayhawks and Fresno State, which is the first of our season. And it'll be the first of 3 games that my broadcast team will do over a 7-day period. So I think they know that I've had 4.5 months of, for the most part, time to chase our grandbabies and a lot of golf balls in my off season. So they heap it on Timmy B pretty quick. No rest for the weary. I'll do that game on Saturday, get home Sunday, turn around on Tuesday, fly up to Minnesota. We've got the Golden Gophers of Minnesota against Buffalo on Thursday. That's the 28th. And the Row the Boat guys will welcome us, I'm sure. And then when we get done with that game, we've got a nice SUV car service with a driver in the middle of the night that'll be taking us down to Ames, Iowa. That's about a 3-hour and 30-minute drive for Iowa State and the Jackrabbits of South Dakota, which will be on Fox on Saturday afternoon, right after the Texas-Ohio State game. So that's a lot of football to jump into. But I got to tell you, this time of year, even at this stage of my career, which this is my 41st year of covering college football at the national level, I'm fired up and ready to go. If you're going to pile a few extra games on me, best time to do it is right now because I'm jacked up. I've had plenty of time to recharge my battery and get ready for another stellar season.
You fired me up. I got chills right now. I mean, just describing your schedule, it fires me up.
Yeah.
Regardless of the travel, because that's a busy schedule.
Yeah.
And you mentioned golf balls. I saw a little bit on your Instagram when you were swinging the club and everything. Talk about your life outside of football media. I think it's very interesting. There's a lot of people just see Tim Brando, coming up on College Football Today or College Football, on Fox. Talk about Tim Brando outside of that.
Well, at this stage of my life, it really is. You talk about family first, and to a large extent, it has been a family first thing with me. I married people of my generation, especially that were raised in the South, married early. In the 70s, people in other parts of the country did start living together, right? But in the South, that didn't happen. If you were in love and you wanted to spend the night with your lady, you were going to marry that lady. And so my wife and I were married in 1978. By 79, I'm in Baton Rouge. I'm covering LSU football in Charlie McClendon's last year. It was something that, she knew what she was getting into because I'd told her this is the journey I'm on. And I'd been working as a play-by-play broadcaster of high school football from my ninth grade year with my dad in 1971, up to and through 78, 79, in the Monroe area, Longview, Texas area, just outside Shreveport, where I'm from. While I was in college, I was a radio disc jockey. So I was on the air doing something for, from the time I was 14 years old to the time I was 22 when I got married. But when you get older and you've had your children and you get to a point where you're in your late 50s, early 60s, which is what I was when I went to Fox in 2014. I was 58. It's a very critical time in my career, really. I was at a crossroads, and it was, within 60 days of the start of the college football season before whether I was going to be working at SEC Network or for Fox. And I'm thankful it was Fox, because I think a move to the SEC Network from CBS would have been deemed a step back, or at best a lateral move. Fox allowed me to be in the booth every week, doing exactly what I always wanted to do. I was great in the studio, but I was never completely happy in the studio. I was very fortunate that I could do both. Don't get me wrong. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be the original host of College Game Day in 1987 at ESPN with Corso and Bino. Very thankful that I was at CBS with Craig James and Lou Holtz, and then later with Spencer Tillman, Archie Manning, and Tony Barnhart and Brian Jones. Did that for 16 of the 18 years I was at CBS. But at Fox, I finally got to be exactly where I wanted to be, doing only what I wanted to do, and that was call games. Football and basketball, even did some golf when we had the U.S. Open, but that went away. And frankly, I don't care to work anymore after the football and basketball seasons. For years, I was wearing a lot of hats. I had my own nationally syndicated radio show that ran for 15 years on Sporting News Radio, later Yahoo, and then later on Sirius XM. And the show was actually televised on CBS's cable network, CBS Sports Network, for a couple of years. And so I was working almost around the clock. Now, the difference was, by doing that, I was doing the show here in my study in Shreveport, or I was at a sound studio where a lot of recordings for musical acts would take place, which was only about 10 minutes away when we were on TV. But still, I was working, had to be on my game 24/7, 365. And when I decided to put that to bed and retired the radio show in 2015, 1 year into the time I was at Fox, I decided that in order for me to continue to be doing what I really loved, what I cared the most about, and what I really wanted to be remembered for, my legacy. My legacy in the business was not to be a bloviator, not to be a guy that was on the air every day having to talk about every issue that came up in sports. I wanted to be remembered as one of the great voices of the game. And if somebody wants to say faces and voices, that's fine too. But there's an old saying, my hero was Kurt Gowdy, the old cowboy, the guy that did American Sportsman when I was a kid. And he was my mentor, as it turned out. There's an old saying about the studio versus the games. When you watch the Classic Channel, or you tune in and by happenstance you catch YouTube, they replay classic games. They never replay classic halftime shows. They just cut right to the third quarter. So your stuff hits the editing room floor quickly when you're in the studio in the grand landscape of sports broadcasting. So I wanted to really be the best dad and granddad I could be to my grandkids. I had one daughter that married in 2014, another that married in 2016. Between them, we have 4 grandchildren between the ages of 4 and 9. One boy, 3 granddaughters, one boy. And I want to be there for them as much as I can. And, I'm getting to watch them in ways that I didn't get to watch my own kids when I was on the journey. When you're in your 20s, 30s, and your wife's having babies, you're into it. You want to be into it and be the best dad you can possibly be. But it's hard to remember if you were or not because your schedule is whack and you're all over the place. So grandkids are like human mulligans. It's like a do-over. They look just like you remember your own kids looking. Only now you've got a little more time to spend with them, and you're not as worried about, where my next job is and what am I going to do next, and all the things that are going through your head when you're in your 20s and 30s. That's gone when you're in your late 50s and early 60s. So I was very, very blessed all through my career, but particularly when I went to Fox. And, by the time you get hired at a place like that, no one that's going to be involved in your hiring is going to take a victory lap for saying, "Hey, we got Tim Brando," because Brando's been on the air for 30 plus years. He's already been discovered at ESPN and worked at Turner and worked at CBS. So they have to hire you because they need you. They have to hire you because they know that you deliver something that they really need. And I'll never forget going in to see the executives there going through sort of their car wash, being vetted by 7 or 8 different middle management guys and the CEO as well. And the question was, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? You're 58 now. Where do you see yourself in 10 years ago? By the way, that would have been last year. So I said to them, I've had a really great career to this point, but I just know I've got a lot of tread left on my tires, and I've never really gotten to concentrate on what I think I'm best at, never been able to just really be a play-by-play guy and be able to give the kind of performances in the booth that I always felt I could, and I always did, but I never got to do it full time. I was always balancing other jobs like the studio at CBS or the studio at ESPN. This time I could really concentrate on it. And I feel I'm at a stage in my career where I can help younger producers, younger directors, younger talent. I said, I look around here and I see Joe Buck, extraordinary talent. Gus Johnson, who's about 13 years younger than me. I helped Gus when he was getting started. He was a local broadcaster in Waco. And when he was at CBS, I was helpful, I think, at times to him as well. And so Gus was sort of behind the scenes, as was Bill Raftery and a few producers, all sort of rooting for me to get the job. But I told the executives, I said, I don't see a guy, especially on your college football roster, I don't see anyone that's got 30 plus years of experience that's been covering college football since he was in his 20s, other than me. And when I was at CBS, the guy that I think I learned the most from was the guy that would never leave, and I never could get the job that I wanted, which was his, Vern Lundquist. And I said, I learned so much from Vern. He was never the number one guy. Jim Nantz was. At one point, he was doing the number 2 NFL games. He got bounced from that when they hired Dick Enberg, who was a legendary figure at NBC, and they bumped him down to do the SEC. That was a demotion for him, to leave the number 2 job in the NFL to go be the voice of the SEC on CBS, which, by the way, was a job I really wanted. Okay. I desperately wanted to get the job. But, you don't argue with the hiring of a legend like Vern Lundquist. Okay. You have to wait your turn.
No.
Well, he wouldn't leave. He just kept on doing a great job well into his 70s. And so I said, I don't see anybody on your roster that remotely reminds me of Vern. So let me be your Vern. That was my point to them. Let me be to Fox what Vern was to CBS. And I think that was a hook that really worked and convinced them that I was there genuinely to do the right thing for the right reasons. And that my goals were a lot different than they had been when I was younger. When you're younger, we're always looking for the next big thing, the next big job, the next opportunity. I've long since passed that. I am now just enjoying my life, getting to do what I love most in my profession and what I love most in life, which is be as good a husband, as great a father and grandfather as I can possibly be. And I want to help all of the people around me that work with me, everyone in the booth, young talent like Brady Quinn and Joel Klatt, who worked with me in my first year at Fox. And then when they moved up, and they did, blossomed in that year, Fox actually came to me and said, "Hey, we need to find a new guy for you. Do you know of anyone?" And I've been in this business over 30 years, and no executive ever asked me that. But it made me feel awfully good when they asked. And I said, "Yes, Spencer Tillman and I were together for 16 of my 18 years at CBS. I'd really love you to get him." And you know what? They did. So it put Spencer with me together for another 9 years. So he and I spent 25 years together at two major networks, covering college football and to some extent the NFL. We did regional games at CBS when we were there, and I'm still doing some regional games for the NFL at Fox. Matt Millen and I are going to do a game week 3, the week I'm in at Rutgers for a college game on Friday, the 19th of September. I'll leave there, fly to Carolina, and do the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons on the 21st. That's nirvana to me. That's exactly what I wanted to do. So I'm having, Joel, it's a long-winded response, I know, but
No, you're good.
I'm having more fun now than I ever have, just to be able to enjoy the craft, the art form of play-by-play. And so oftentimes I think in this highly competitive business, and I was guilty of it too, you get so caught up in what's next and what I need to do to position myself to get this or that job, you sort of don't appreciate what you're actually getting to do, which is pretty unbelievable.
All right.
Okay. 16 years sitting in the same chair that Brent Musburger was in on Sundays. James Brown was in on Sundays later. And Greg Gumbel was in during the basketball tournament. That's the chair I was in. That's a pretty big time chair in a studio that sort of wakes up the echoes of the history of not just the NFL but college football too. So, but I think a lot of times we just are so caught up in the chase, the journey, and trying to get ahead that we forget to appreciate and smell the roses, so to speak, of the love and affinity that we have for what we do, and the honor that we have in getting to do it for as long as we've been able to do it, and at different places. I like to tell people I was on the fast track when I started, but I was evidently a slow learner because at different points I had to leave where I was to get where I wanted to go. Okay, there are a lot of guys at ESPN that are lifers. You know, when I left Game Day, they didn't even think Chris Fowler was ready and mature enough to take over the show. They hired Bob Carpenter to do the show for 1 year,
Yeah.
rather than me. And why did I leave? Because I wanted to get out of Connecticut. My wife didn't like it there, and I wanted to be in the booth. I wanted to call games, and so in the fall of '89, Vince Dooley, in his first year out of coaching from Georgia, joined me in the booth. We did it for a year, and then he got the AD's job and decided to forget television. And I think that was a wise choice for him. But what did they do? They started flying me back to Connecticut to do halftimes and wraparounds when Fowler took over Game Day in 1990. So being versatile and being able to do a lot has served me well. It's probably helped me have this, enduring career that I've had. But it comes at a price too, in the sense that, maybe you didn't get, in your opinion, where you set out to go to when you started in the industry. But I've always had a great time every stop along the way. And somehow I've managed to convince others to hire me when it was time for me to leave someplace else. So all in all, it's been, the dreams have been realized. Okay. I'm living a dream that I had from the time I was 6 years old. And I'm very grateful. And I honor my God for giving me the opportunity to do that. And the blessing of having a father that had great influence and was a pioneer in the business. I lost him too young. I lost him the year before I was hired at ESPN, but my dad meant everything to me. And then to have people like Kurt Gowdy and Dick Enberg and Vern Lundquist as play-by-play mentors of sorts, and then have best friends like John Saunders at ESPN and Spencer Tillman, who's my oldest daughter named my only grandson after him. He actually, my grandson is named Spencer Brando Cruz. I couldn't even get top billing with my daughter with my first grandson's name. So it's been a wonderful ride. It really has.
That's awesome. That is very, very cool. And you get to do the best of both worlds. You get to be a good husband, great grandfather, great father to your kids,
Yeah.
but also get to call games, which you've
Yeah.
always wanted to do. So that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. And the kids think it's cool. There's
Yeah.
nothing, when my daughters were watching me on TV when they were young, they thought it was just awesome. My wife would take pictures of them and videos of them watching me on TV and watching their faces as they were looking at me. And now, on my phone, my grandkids are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so people will ask me, "What's your inspiration?" Or, "You've been doing this so long, Tim. What gets you going? What inspires you?" And I love the game. I love football and I love basketball, particularly at the college level. But also, what gets me going is the fact that those grandkids, who are absolute joys of life, think I am the coolest thing going. Okay. And when you're, just a few months shy of the year 70, you think it's great when somebody thinks you're still cool. And those grandkids think, between 4 and 9, they're just looking at that TV and they're like, "That's Big Daddy B. That's Big Daddy B." And that, by the way, that's my name. I'm not Gramps and Grandpa. Forget that. I am Big Daddy B to them.
That's unique, and that is awesome. That's really, really cool. I want to ask you, though, what made you want to be in sports media? Because I think that's a really, really unique question that a lot of people, I don't know if they've asked you that before, like on other shows and everything, but what made you want to do this?
Well, first and foremost, my dad was a pioneer of television in the 50s before I was born. And I was born in 1956. He had been working in radio and in television since he'd come back from World War II, where he was on a ship and was the reconnaissance guy. He was the communications guy on a ship in the Atlantic during World War II. And he came back and went to the Columbia School of Broadcasting. He was already, before he went to war, he was heavily involved in communication, in speech and debate. He was a crooner. He was a singer. He was involved in anything that puts you in front of people. My dad was sort of a court jester. He just was blessed with an ability to communicate, and he could sing, and he could play a trombone and play it well. And so he had all of these many talents that when radio was converting to television, you really needed. And so when television first came on the air, the CBS affiliate in my hometown, the very first television station, hired him. And he worked there until there was an ownership squabble between two families that wanted to be in charge of the station. And so the FCC allowed them to fight it out. And then Dad said, "You know what? I think I'm going to start my own advertising agency. I've got a band." He had a band that toured SAC air bases all around the country and even abroad, called Hub Brando and the Dreamers. He was a flat out entertainer. And he took a bunch of his local television shows. One was called Search for Talent, where he would have young people come on and compete to win, sort of a local version of American Idol, and he would find some really talented kids that played instruments, and he would get the families of these kids once they were winners, get the parents to sign they would sign a waiver, and they would go on the road with him and his band. And this was all going on before I was born. And so 1956, fast forward, I'm born. He had just started his ad agency. He had 3 live television shows on the second TV station that was born in my hometown. And so I'm watching him each day get ready to go into the TV station where he did a morning kiddie show that was on right after Captain Kangaroo. called Tops for Toys. A bottling company would sponsor the show, and kids would take bottle tops to bid on toys that were given away by this toy store in town, and that was the hook for the show. So he would do that each day, and then on the weekends he had Search for Talent on Saturdays, and then he had the Hub Brando show, which was a variety show which aired on Sundays. And so I would watch my dad every morning as a infant from the time I was a year old, watching him shave, watching him put together his look to go on TV that day, and then I'd watch him on TV. And like those kids I were telling you about that watched me, I was just, I mean, television was as new then as the internet was in the 90s, and as X and Instagram and all of that is today. I mean,
Right.
not everybody had a television in 1956. On our street, if you had a color television set, oh my God, that was really the bomb. So it was really cool, to be Hub Brando's son and to watch him relate to people the way that he did. And it wasn't long after that I became part of the act. I sang. I would sing songs with my dad. He would put me in a tuxedo, and I learned how to play the drums. And I would do kind of a comedy bit with him where I wanted to join the band and all that. And I got my musicians union card, which you had to have if you were going to be able to play in establishments that sold liquor. So I was a 7-year-old member of the Musicians Local 116 in Northwest Louisiana. And I traveled with my dad to Newfoundland, to Labrador, to the Azore Islands, where my family is from, in Portugal. The Brando name is a Portuguese name, so it sounds Italian, but I'm not Italian. I'm Irish Portuguese. My wife is a Glorioso; she's Italian, and so my kids are beautiful like their Italian mother, and a little bit gregarious like their Portuguese Irish father. So that's how that worked. But so I watched him at first and was mesmerized by him. He was extraordinarily talented, but like all different journeys and stories, Dad ran into some difficulty because he was wearing so many hats. He was producing the show, writing the show, selling the show, performing on the show, and some of his sponsors had to pull out for different political reasons at the time. And shortly after I was 10 years old, my mother and father separated. The band ended. The TV show went away. Dad invested into the hotel business. And he also wanted to pursue his craft as a writer, as a screenplay writer, and he moved to California. So I went from having a dad that was there every day, who was the absolute God of gods in my mind, to having him gone. And what do you do when you're a 10, 11-year-old kid and you've been a stage child for a long time? What do you do when all of a sudden that goes away? Well, you're in school and you're trying to fit in with the guys. And how do you fit in with the guys when you've been wearing tuxedos and wearing silkskin bow ties and getting on a stage and singing in front of people and playing the drums? And what do? You join the team. You want to be on the team. You want to play ball.
Yeah.
And so I drifted towards sports like most kids to be accepted by my peers. And I wasn't bad. I was a pretty good athlete, not great, good enough to make the teams, good enough to be a starting first baseman and an occasional pitcher, left-hand pitcher, which everybody needs a left-handed pitcher. And I had an uncle, my mother's brother, who was 9 years younger than my mom, 20 years older than me. He was a great baseball player. And so he was an influence and an impact on me through my awkward years, those years between, say, 11 and 15, to be socially involved and be sort of a regular guy. But I was still a great yearning broadcaster, and yet one that wanted to be as my father would say, and he never maintained. We never got separated in the heart or in our soul. Dad was miles and miles away and going through some difficulty, but he knew I wanted to be a broadcaster. About the time I was about 6 or 7 years old, when I was still wearing the tuxes and doing this and that, I'm watching college football on Saturday afternoons. And I remember it was like 1962. I'm 6 years old. And my dad said, "Hey, I got some tickets to the Texas OU game at the Cotton Bowl. We're going." And I said, "Oh, great. That'll be awesome." So we go to the game. It's during the state fair in Texas, which is about a 3.5 hour drive from Shreveport. And I remember going to that game and thinking, wow, just man, because in those days people dressed up. They were wearing coats and ties. I mean, if you saw a crowd at a college football game in 1962, and then compared it to what you see now, it's a whole different world. I mean, a whole different world. But it was amazing to be involved in that and to watch it. And then from that point on, I started watching college football games with LSU and Arkansas and Ole Miss, all the teams in the South that I was accustomed to, and located where I was in Shreveport. We were getting the Darrell Royal show, a lot of Texas people in Northwest Louisiana, the Gene Stallings show when he was at A&M, the Frank Broyles show when he was at Arkansas, because we're called the Arklatex, the
Yeah.
Northwest Louisiana corner, okay, where we're really bordering with both Texas and Arkansas. I can drive 45 minutes north and I'm in Arkansas, 45 minutes west and I'm in Texas. So we're getting all these coaches shows, the Charlie McClendon show from LSU, and I'm watching these every Sunday night. They'd have the replays, and then I'm watching college football with Chris Schenkel and Bud Wilkinson, and then later Keith Jackson and Frank Broyles. And from the time I was that age, I'm like, I want to be those guys. And Kurt Gowdy, who did the World Series, the Final Four, those Super Bowls, the Rose Bowls for NBC, and also did American Sportsman on ABC on Sunday afternoons. I thought to myself, my God, that guy has got it all. He's just doing it all. And I wanted to be him. I have a younger brother, Kurt, who's no longer with us. He died back in 2020, 11 years my junior. And my mom and dad never divorced. They were separated. They loved one another, and even had children after they had separated. And one surprise came in the form of my youngest brother, Kurt. And neither one of them, my dad was a Catholic. He didn't believe in divorce anyway. And my mom never stopped loving my dad. So, but they were like, okay, if it's a little girl, my older sister, you get to name it. If it's a little boy, Tim, we're going to let you name the baby. Well, there was no doubt who I was going to name the baby. It was going to be after Kurt Gowdy. So, Mr. Gowdy has a namesake. Unfortunately, Kurt passed away. He was only 52 when he died in 2020. So I miss him, but he had to live with the fact that I had named him his entire life. And he was a great international journalist, by the way. He was working in Myanmar, helped bring westernized publication to the UAE, the National. He was the editor for that publication in Abu Dhabi, and then he moved over to Myanmar. I think that's probably where, somewhere in that area. COVID had nothing to do with his death, but he did get cancer, and he had a liver disease. And I wonder sometimes if the lack of certain foods for him in a country like Myanmar, which was the former Burma, they didn't have a lot. He had great jobs, but he lived in some places that were sometimes difficult, but to live in. But that is the essence of why I became who I am and why I did what I wanted to do. And all those influences that meant so much to me, my uncle, my dad. I later met Kurt Gowdy through just working hard and having an owner of a radio station who was a part of a independent ownership group that Gowdy was involved with. Gowdy owned about 7 radio stations around the country. Had some in Massachusetts, had a couple in West Palm Beach, Had one in Wyoming, still has the one in Wyoming, I think. It's still owned by his family. And his son, Kurt Jr., who was a Wide World of Sports producer, actually produced me on the Little League World Series in 1994. And he knows all about my affinity for his dad. So Mr. Gowdy met me at the 82 Final Four, and he mentored me until he died. And he got to see me make it to CBS, which was a thrill for me to not only get to ESPN with his help, with his mentorship, but also later to CBS, which getting there by the time I was 40 years old, I thought was a pretty big accomplishment. I started at ESPN at age 29, had gotten to CBS by the time I was 40. And, in those days, ESPN was not the behemoth that it is now. ESPN was more of a sort of a AAA farm club to the New York Yankees.
Right.
Everyone wanted to work at CBS, NBC, or ABC.
Yeah.
There was no Fox. Okay, Fox didn't exist until 1994. So you wanted to be at one of those three-letter networks, not at ESPN. But the ESPN opportunity jettisoned my career in so many ways. So and the college football Supreme Court ruling by the universities of Georgia and Oklahoma filing a lawsuit against the NCAA, which enabled cable television to carry games. Someone other than ABC and the NCAA could do games. There's no college game day without that. My timing, my calendar was really, really kind to me. And it enabled, the proliferation of cable, which in those days, we're talking about what television was in the 50s. In the 80s, cable was as big as digital is now, okay? Cable took over this country in the 80s. And ESPN and CNN were the real beneficiaries of that at the time. And, of course, since then, Fox News has taken over. But my timing in terms of where the business was, where sports was going, and the opportunities afforded me, and the fact that I was ready. My dad had put me in front of people from the time I was, 6 years old. So I was comfortable in the spotlight, and that really helped me a great deal.
And it got you a lot of experience, like pre-experience ahead of time. So that's pretty
Yeah.
good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I was ready. I was ready for those auditions when the auditions came. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have a fun question at the end of this, kind of like pulling it back to the sports media topic. But
Yeah,
one more question on the sports media. Well, actually two, because it's kind of unique. What are some of the favorite games that you've called, if you have any?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's tons. I mean, the buzzer beaters in the NCAA tournament all can kind of run together. I'm sure if you Googled me, you could get, a half hour's worth of Brando buzzer beaters. I don't have quite as many as Gus Johnson, but I got my fair share. But the relationships are what makes our business special, and I had great relationships with everybody I worked with. Whether it was Mike Jaminski, who worked with me for 10 years, with Bill Raftery, who first worked with me as a 29-year-old at ESPN, and we've worked together every year at least once at 3 different networks now for 40 plus years. But to have my first game ever on ESPN, January 5th, 1985, it was number 2 Duke against Virginia. Virginia was 1 year removed from the Final Four in 1984 in Seattle. And to be told by the lady that had called me from ESPN while I was working in local television in Baton Rouge, to be told by her, "You're going to work with Dick Vitale. Do you think you can handle that?" And wow, he was already by that time a cable culture icon. I mean, he had been on the air since its inception, since ESPN launched in 1979, and this is 1985. So he was the biggest name in cable covering college basketball. Billy Packer and Al McGuire were bigger names in network television, but no one was bigger than Dickie V on cable. So to get to do that game and have it go really well, and it did. And have Vital say, "Timmy B, you're good, baby. I'm being told there. Everybody's telling me you're good. You're a diaper dandy, baby." I mean, when having saying that to me was really comforting, you know. And I'll show you something here. I've kept this. Uh, I'm a hoarder of things.
No,
This is a copy. This is a copy of the check that I received for that game. And the check was submitted to me in February, a month later, in 1985. And I don't know if you can see closely there the amount of, the amount is a whopping $300 for that game.
yeah.
I got a whopping $300 for that game, and a copy of the check stub. I've kept that for, and I'll never let it go. And you know what? The contract that they sent for me to do that game as a freelance broadcaster, the contract was as big as a book. I mean, it was like I had to sit, go through all this stuff. That was a special moment, a special game, and without it, I don't get the call again to do other stuff.
Right.
Next thing I knew, I'm doing a Notre Dame basketball game. Then I'm doing a Villanova St. John's game the year that both those teams went to the Final Four, and I'm working with Bill Raftery. I mean, come on Big Monday. Those were unbelievable moments. But the thing I think I'll treasure most from a basketball standpoint was in 1998 at age 42. This was while CBS was without the NFL. Fox had gotten it in 94. And so a lot of the broadcasters had left CBS and gone to Fox. So that created some opportunities. And I had started working the NCAAs for CBS in 1996 and had a great tournament that year. And that got me more opportunities to do not just college basketball, but college football in 97 as a play-by-play broadcaster. Did the Fiesta Bowl with a young Ed Cunningham when Kansas State played Syracuse and Donovan McNabb was playing quarterback. That was the last year of the Alliance before the BCS was created. But I think the moment that I treasured most and still do treasure most, not just in basketball, but just in opportunities, was in 1998 getting to move up to one of the top 4 positions of announce teams at CBS so that I got to work the regional finals, not just the first 2 rounds, but the regional finals. And they gave me Al McGuire as my partner. Al had been such a star since winning the national title in 77 and retiring immediately after the game. And then working with Dick Enberg and Billy Packer on the Larry Bird, Irvin Magic Johnson game in 79, in 1980 and 81. In 81, I was there as a broadcaster following LSU. I did Dale Brown's coaches show. That's another guy that was very influential in my life and career was Coach Brown. Still alive, still kicking at 90. He and Lee Corso have they've got 9 lives, those guys. Dale was a life mentor for me. He gave me some great opportunities to get started as a play-by-player while I was working in Baton Rouge and local TV. But to get to work with Al McGuire and get to punch a ticket for a team to the Final Four was as big a moment as a 42-year-old could have. And in my lifetime, I'm pinching myself at the moment that it's happening. I'm watching Al dance with the Stanford tree after they had come from 6 down in the last 58 seconds to beat Rhode Island and go to the Final Four. We were in St. Louis, Missouri. And, when you're doing an event as big as that, and there's only 3 other guys that get to work the regional finals, so there's only 4 guys that do play-by-play of basketball that are working that weekend, and you're one of them, man, that gets to you as a broadcaster that's been dreaming. So, and to get to do it with Al McGuire, and Al was such an intelligent man, such a wonderful, giving man. I learned more about life, not just basketball, but more about life being with Al. That was magnificent for me. The football the football moments, early it was mostly studio. To say that I did the audition for Lee Corso to join Bino and me, that I was there when Pepper Rogers and Lee. You'll be hearing more about this, by the way, in the coming days ahead, because ESPN's doing the documentary on Lee that I think airs the 22nd of August, which is aptly named "Not So Fast, My Friend" is the name of it. They came and interviewed me last week for about 2 hours about early Lee Corso. What was he like when he was just starting out as a broadcaster? Well, when he was starting out, he was 52 years old, and I was 31 years old. And I was auditioning him for College Game Day to work with Bino and me. And Pepper Rogers was with him that day. They were both auditioning together. Lee had a vision about what he wanted to accomplish, and I knew him as a coach, both in college, but more recently I'd done USFL games, the first iteration of the USFL when he was coaching the Orlando Renegades. That's how he kind of won the favor of some producers to get to have the opportunity to be auditioned. So to do the first College Game Day, to be the guy that had to navigate Bino and Corso through those early days, doing the first ever pregame show in the history of college football. The NFL had the NFL Today, which was born in 1975. Yeah. But on Saturdays, you couldn't get the stations, the affiliated stations with the major networks would never take off the cartoons. So you couldn't have a pregame show. You'd have a halftime show and a postgame show on ABC, but that was it. So this vision that ESPN had of starting the brand of Game Day and to have Chris Berman as the original NFL Game Day host and me as the original College Game Day host was that was a thrill, and to be a part of that on the ground floor, and it brought back a lot of memories when they asked me about them, because there's two generations of people now that don't remember what Lee was doing in 1987 through 1995. They only remember him when they put the headgear on in 96. A lot of TV had happened. A lot of growing for him had happened. He was, for us, when we were putting the show together, he was auditioning for basically what the Kirk Herbstreit role would be. The X's and O's guys, the guy that's been there, done that, coached it, played it. He was a scat back at Florida State in the 50s, the little Southern Scooter. So those were all major moments for me that weren't necessarily just game related. But when I got the call, games that were won at the wire on Hail Marys, one happened just recently, a few years ago, between Houston and West Virginia on the final play of the game, on a Thursday night, was magical. Yeah. You don't forget those moments. The Fiesta Bowl between K-State and Syracuse was also a great memory. I think going to the Rose Bowl to call my first game there, happened to be a UCLA-Utah game, but both were ranked in the top 15, was a tremendous thrill. My first trip to the Shoe to do Ohio State. And I've got one for you here that you'll get a kick out of. I've got a little picture to show you here.
Awesome.
Let me show you. This is Vince Dooley and me, New Year's Eve, 1989, the Holiday Bowl, BYU with Ty Detmer, the Heisman Trophy winner in 1990, his sophomore season. They're playing Penn State with Blair Thomas. So it was Joe Pa against Lavelle Edwards. That was my statistician and my spotter that are with Vince and me there at the time. And we're at old Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego, which is no longer there.
Yeah.
But to do the Holiday Bowl, which at the time was a big deal, and BYU had all these unbelievable finishes. They had won the national title in '84. That year, Vince and I did Notre Dame and Pitt, number 1 against number 7. You were talking about YouTube earlier.
Yeah.
That's one you can find on YouTube. Mike Godfrey, who would later be the analyst for ESPN doing CFA Primetime, he was the head coach at Pitt at the time. I did his audition, too, before he came to ESPN. And he's coaching against Coach Holtz Coach Holtz in Notre Dame after before we, 9 years before we worked together at CBS. I'm doing, I'm doing Coach Holtz's regular season game that year. And speaking of Coach Holtz, I have another picture for you. All
Absolutely.
right, I got you. You're seeing some of my wall here. That's college game day on January 2nd, 1989.
I got
The 88
chills.
season, the 88 season, and that's inside Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe, where the Fiesta Bowl was played back then. And that picture was taken by one of our great photographers at ESPN. That's a professional shot right there, and I'll have it, I'll forever. It just
Absolutely.
meant the world to me. So I kind of surround myself with that.
Yeah.
And speaking of, here's another one that is near and dear to my heart. Getting to work with and call a buzzer beating game. I did like 2 with this guy, and people have forgotten this because he did a lot of studio work too. But the last time I worked with Jim Valvano was at the NABC All-Star Game and the slam dunk and three-point shooting show in Indianapolis at the 1991 Final Four. And there we are together working that game, that moment. I hope you can see it okay there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was just a great, great moment for me. And to have these mementos, and I was talking about my daughter earlier.
Yeah.
So it's 1985, that year I was talking about. I'm still working in Baton Rouge. I had just begun to freelance. This was after I'd done the game between Duke and Virginia. The U.S. Olympic Festival was going to be in Baton Rouge, and I was going to work a bunch of venues for them, different sports, including hockey, believe it or not. I called hockey in 1985 as a 29-year-old. But my oldest daughter, who's 42 now, is 2 years old in this picture. This is the legendary broadcaster who worked with Kurt Gowdy at NBC, Jim Simpson, who was the first signature voice at ESPN. He and Vital are coming in. That's my daughter, Tiffany, who was 2 years old at the time, and that's my wife, who's back. You see her hair there.
Yeah, amazing. This is amazing.
Meeting Jim Simpson. So those are timeless moments for me that I sort of surround myself with and remind myself of all the time. And since I'm in the mood of showing pictures, I'll show you.
You were okay.
I'll show you one more, and then I'm done. Okay?
No, you're fine.
More.
No, you're good.
This is a publicity photo that ESPN put out when I was hired there, and it shows my father and the band doing the television show, and that's my dad with the horn, with the trombone there, and you see a little guy in a white jacket. See that little guy in the white jacket there?
Right there, yeah.
Yeah, right there. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, right in there. You see. That's me in 1963. I'm 7 years old in that picture. That's the Hub Brando show in the studio at KTBS Television in Shreveport, and they included that. And said, that's Tim Brando in his white jacket performing on stage with his dad. So that's really you wanted This Is Your Life, Tim Brando. I just gave it to you.
No, absolutely. I'm glad. and you gave me some of your favorite memories to call in college football and in college basketball. And speaking of college football.
I got to tell you, that buzzer beater, there was several, but buzzer beaters, when they come, it's like the great payoff for all the work, all the homework that you do. And when you get it and it's golden and you didn't screw it up, you just get out of the way, call it the right way, and then lay out and enjoy it and let the fans watch the pictures that the producer and director put up on the screen. I had one that I think a lot of Michigan State fans still go nuts about. I think I called probably 4 Michigan State buzzer beaters in NCAA tournament play, but one in particular against Maryland when Gary Williams was still coaching. Gravis Vasquez, an all-ACC player, goes through, gets a layup. to tie the game with 6 seconds left. Both teams were out of timeouts. And Draymond Green and Delvon Rowe are bringing the ball up. And Delvon Rowe was in the way of a pass that Draymond Green was making. And thankfully, Rowe got his head down. Otherwise, he's going to get hit in the head.
Yeah.
He ducks. The pass goes to a little guard named Corey Lucius, who gets the ball with like 2 seconds left. Time for a dribble and a shot. And on one end, you have Vasquez making an unbelievable play. Boom. No timeout, because there are no timeouts. Ball comes racing back up the floor. And Lucius for the win. And boom. Michigan State's on to the Sweet 16. That was a, incredible moment. You win favor with a lot of fans and particularly coaches when you have those moments. They remember. Bill Self of Kansas, whether he was coaching at Tulsa or Illinois or Kansas, is unbeaten regular season and postseason with me. He is like 14-0 when Brando calls his games. And this year we get the Big 12 on Fox for the first time in basketball.
Yeah.
And so I can't wait to go back up to Fog Island and say, hey, I bet you're happy to see me, So.
And that's an interesting stat, too. Yeah, that's an awesome stat.
Yeah.
Speaking of college football, we were talking about just some of the favorite games you're calling. You're calling some interesting games, I'm pretty sure, this year. So it's going to be very, very interesting season for college football. There's a lot of sleepers out there.
They are.
I'm not gonna ask you about your top 15 because you've been getting that a lot.
Yeah.
But I will. So as we get ready to wrap up and everything, just talk about college football at the ending here.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What are who are your sleeper teams entering the 2025 season in each conference?
Well, there are a lot of them. Now, when you start talking about the Power Four conferences,
right?
We know who the Blue Bloods are and who the so-called elite teams have been.
Yeah.
But there are some teams that have been on the precipice, or maybe they were once that way, and maybe they're being overlooked now.
Right.
By example, Oklahoma is a Blue Blood, but no one's expecting them to outduel Georgia or Alabama or LSU, maybe not even Florida, okay, with DJ Lagway. And that's even with Florida having the murderous schedule that they do have. But I think Oklahoma, with John Mateer transferring from Wazoo to Oklahoma and bringing his offensive coordinator with him, they're a spoiler, man. Oklahoma could be a major spoiler. They could end it for Texas in the Red River rivalry.
Yeah.
I mean, Arch Manning is worthy of all of the attention. And I've got them making it. I do. I've got Texas. I've got Texas in my top 10. I've got them number 5, but I don't think they're going to beat Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's going to knock them off. In today's college football, you've got to have a roster built for the long-term success. Like Ohio State won the national title with 2 losses last year, and that won't be the last time we see a 2-loss team win a national championship. As a matter of fact, when we go to 16 next year, presumably, I think we could see a 3-loss team eventually win a national title within the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Because there is more parity now. The talent is more spread out with NIL and the portal. Kids are not that wrapped up in being, a Georgia Bulldog or a member that they want to play. They want to play now. They want to make their money, and they're going to go where they can play and where they can make their money. So I think that balances it out quite a lot. So Oklahoma is a team in the SEC, even though they're a blue blood. I think they're overlooked by a lot of. I think the AP has got them 18. They're a hell of a lot better than 18 in my mind. So that's one that jumps out. In the Big 12, you're not hearing a lot about Texas Tech. I'm here to tell you, they are going to be really, really good, and they've spent a lot of money to be really, really good. Yeah. So keep an eye on the Red Raiders, and anyone in that league can beat anyone in that league.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any way that a team even gets through the season with one loss. There are going to be multiple two-loss teams. Wouldn't shock me if a three-loss team won the league and won the bid for the conference into the college football playoff. But that's a team to really keep an eye on, in my opinion, is Texas Tech. Those guys in West Texas now, they're pumped up, and I understand why they are pumped up. In the Big Ten, I have Illinois in the 10 position, and after 10 wins, I think that should be the expectation, that they should get to at least 10 wins again. But I might be wrong in picking them when Indiana is returning a lot of good talent, and I think they just got better at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Mendoza, the kid that they got from
Cal,
from Cal, is dynamite. I mean, they got better at quarterback. Rourke had a tremendous year, a breakthrough year. But I think they're better at quarterback this year than they were last year. If Indiana beats Illinois in that game that they play, which I think is probably one of the most overlooked great matchups in college football this season, if Indiana wins that game, I think they're right there again, knocking on the door of the CFP. And there are other teams in the Big Ten that are overlooked. Minnesota is not getting a lot of love, and the last team Illinois lost to at home was Minnesota in a game I had in early November of last year. That row the boat thing is working, and they play hard, tough-nosed football. They don't turn it over a lot, and they don't beat themselves a lot. So that's another. And I think Dylan Raiola at Nebraska with a offensive coordinator like Dana Holgorsen is going to flourish. I think he's going to have a really good year. And Nebraska, who lost that close game on Friday night, last year game we had against Illinois in overtime, I think that's when the world found out who Luke Altmaier was outside of the SEC. He was more polished at the end of that game than the freshman Raiola was, but Holgersen's really going to help him a lot. So the Big Ten's going to be a lot more competitive, and it's not just about Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon. They got four teams that can get in my opinion, very easily. Now, who that fourth will be is up for some debate. That'll be fun to watch. Yeah. The ACC is not as deep as the Big 12, but it has a team in Clemson that is elite. Big 12 does not have a team like Clemson. All right. I think Clemson is a cut above. That doesn't mean that Miami and North Carolina and NC State and others won't have their moments. I think Belichick will have a good year at North Carolina. I do. But if there's a team that maybe is overlooked in that conference, and almost always is overlooked, it's North Carolina State.
Yeah.
Just keep an eye on them. Now, outside the Power Four, when you look at the group of five, the team that I have earmarked as this year's Boise State is Tulane. Summerall, who's come in to take over for Willie Fritz, who went to Houston, has done a great job. If he doesn't lose his quarterback, his starter last year at home against Ole Miss, they beat Ole Miss. And this year, he just got better at quarterback. BYU, they should be just kicking themselves over losing Jed Retzlaff. Retzlaff is outstanding. And on September the 20th, they're going to go in, Tulane is, to Vaught Hemingway, and I think they can upset Ole Miss. And if that happens, and they run roughshod over the American Conference the way I think they can, Tulane is going to be the G5 representative this year. And that doesn't mean Boise State's not going to compete. They will, even without Ashton Gente. They're going to compete and compete well. And there are some other really good teams. Fresno State, who will be playing at Kansas in the game a week from Saturday. They're really solid, really good. If Boise State doesn't win the Mountain West, I think Fresno State does. Yeah. So there are a lot of really good teams for everyone to keep an eye on. And there could be some surprises beyond the ones that I've just mentioned. But that's what makes the 12-team format so much more fun. And I'll leave you with this. While everyone is talking about, the format for 16 next year and whether it's going to be 4 automatic qualifiers for the 2 major leagues, Big Ten and SEC, and 2-2 for the ACC. while they're talking, quibbling about that, I think the bigger issue, Noel, is I really believe this. The bigger issue for college football now is not the number of teams in the CFP,
Okay.
but the calendar. The 23rd is week 0. Why couldn't week 0 have been this past Saturday? What's the difference in the weather on August the 9th versus August the 23rd? Nothing. There's no difference.
Right.
If we started the season 2 weeks earlier, we could have these playoff games out of the way and have our national champion in college football, if not on New Year's Day, at least the week of New Year's Day. Okay? That way, we're not fighting having playoff games up against the wild card divisional games in the NFL or the divisional round games. 2 weeks of NFL playoffs overlapped with college football.
Yeah.
That is not good.
It's not.
For the growth of college football. We need to start the season earlier. And when somebody says, "Oh, we don't need to do that for the NFL," I'm like, "No, you don't understand." Okay, I love college football, but there is no comparison to how many more people watch the NFL versus college football. Why put yourself in that kind of competition when you don't have to?
Right.
Make the adjustment and get the hell away from NFL playoff games, because the media is not going to cover you the way you should be, and there won't be as many eyeballs. That's one of the reasons why ESPN, paying that absurd amount of money for the rights to all the playoff games, had to sell 2 of those games to make back some of their losses to Turner and put those playoff games on TNT, which a lot of people didn't know about until the day the games were played, and they couldn't find them anywhere. And that's not good for the game. So I'll leave you with that little opinion on the way out.
Nah, you're A-okay. I'm glad that you mentioned Texas Tech. A lot of people are sleeping on Texas Tech, and the thing is, it's just everyone's going to say, "Oh, it's the NIL money, it's the oil money, all that stuff." Texas Tech is still, to me, they're loading up and they're doing it right in today's college football. Oklahoma, I've always said they're a sleeper team, especially for this season. So I'm glad.
But guess what? But guess what? Without Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12, I just love the fact that there are so many pundits that can't stand the fact that a school like Texas Tech can do what Oklahoma and Texas and Georgia and Florida and LSU and Alabama all do, and Ohio State and Penn State and all of them do. Why not Texas Tech?
Right.
You got an alum that's willing to do all of that? Hell yeah. Go get you some. And let's have some fun. Let's see what happens.
And Joey McGuire is confident in it too. He's not. He was out there saying we could go play against LSU. We'll line up and match up against them. And I'm sitting there. He
embraces it. Yeah.
That's confidence right there. Last but not least, and then I'll leave you, and then we'll wrap up everything. Going back to our sports media conversation, if you had to do it all over again, if you had to just set a restart on everything, would you do it all over again?
Oh yeah. I think I don't believe necessarily in regrets, but I can tell you what my flaws were and are. And I was in too big of a hurry.
Yeah.
And I would caution any young broadcaster that is on the journey. And we all want to get where we want to go as fast as we can. It's, we're type A's. It's a competitive business. We're going to do everything in our power to get where we need to go. But if I could talk to my younger self and counsel him, and I got great mentorship, as I mentioned, from a lot of people that really helped me get where I am today. Some, like I mentioned, my father, but Kurt, Dale Brown, so many others that my opportunities with people like Al McGuire and Lee Corso, who had vision for, he was like, "Sweetheart, I'm going to be the Dickie V of college football." And he was right. He was absolutely right. Yeah. He was. He had a vision for what he was going to do. I living in the moment was something I just could not do until I got to Fox at age 58. I was constantly chasing the next big assignment, the next big opportunity, that next big chance to get to the goals that I had set for myself when I started out. And some things just aren't attainable. You know, if you looked at my career, you would have to say, I think, objectively, it was in the, top third of all time broadcasting at the generation that I'm in, for sure. That I was, like in golf, they have the Tour Championship. Only the top 30 get to play in the Tour Championship coming up. Well, I think I've been in the top 30 of sports broadcasting for quite a while. I've been pretty consistent. I may have had different addresses, but I've been pretty consistent in being a major player in sports broadcasting. But the need for more, or the want that was within me to get to that next thing, at times got in the way of my enjoying the moment. And sometimes we can press too much. We can push too hard. Not so much that it's affecting us as sportscasters. That has nothing to do with it. It affects us at home. When you're at home, but your mind is not at home. It affects us maybe with relationships away from the business. It's easy for young guys, especially when they're starting out, and let's say they don't have a wife that's been with them since the beginning, to get really paranoid, to think that they're on this island and no one else knows what they're going through. Really easy to feel that way. And self-doubt can creep in. And that's the worst thing that can possibly happen to a broadcaster in a business that's as competitive and is filled with people who are really talented and are really enjoying their lives. You've got to enjoy every stinking moment you're in it. And yeah, it's great to pursue new opportunities when they present themselves, but you can't, you can't do it on your own. Okay. Every opportunity, great break that came my way basically fell into my lap. Yeah. It was through the grace of God that a phone call would come and an opportunity would present itself. Now, found opportunity means you got to be good. You got to be ready to convert on that opportunity. And I've spent most of my life, I think, taking advantage of found opportunity. But once you've gotten that job and once you're into it, you need to sit back and enjoy it some and enjoy the people you're with and not worry so much about what's out there on the horizon for you. That's really the nugget that I would share, is that every move I made, I always felt, even the one with CBS, which was unfortunate from a timing standpoint, but you know what? I don't regret ever saying to myself at the time, I needed to stake my claim that this is what I want. This is what I need to be doing. And once I did, there were some consequences, and we had a really good, cordial divorce, the two entities, CBS and me. But after 9 months of not being sure of what was going to happen with my career, the blessing came in July of 2014 when I thought, okay, this is going to be me having to suck it up. I said I wanted something else, and that something else is going to be probably now something I really didn't want to have happen. I wanted Fox all along, but that phone call came after the rumor had hit that I might be joining the SEC network, and Fox said, we want you to come out for a visit. And, I'll always treasure that phone call and the opportunity to meet with them. And it's almost like a new life for me began. And I was able to face the mirror and say, you know what, you were in this predicament for 9 months, not knowing where you were going to be in the fall because of your doing, no one else's. You are responsible for where you are and why you are where you are. And some of it's confidence, yes, but sometimes it can get the better of you. And um, I had to face my own music and understand that more self awareness, more understanding of what the people around you were thinking and how they were feeling, not just what your thoughts were, mattered more. And so when I go on the air now with Devin Gardner and my crew in the booth, I want to do everything I can to make him the star, to make the guys that are working with us to make him the star have a good time while we're in that booth. It's not about me anymore at all. I think sometimes because of the confidence that we have to have, my father used to tell me for years, Tim, if you don't love you, how are you going to love anybody else?
Right.
So you had to have a healthy love of yourself to succeed. So if you want to call that confidence, fine. If you want to call that arrogance, fine. It's a fine line between the two. But you better think a lot of you if you want to be successful in this business. But your job is to make others around you better, particularly those that didn't start out in the broadcasting business, which is just about everybody on the air with you. They're either former players or former coaches. And your job is to make them the best they can be.
Absolutely. The legendary and one and only Tim Brando, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very fun episode. Guys, follow him on X, follow him on Instagram, and guys, listen to him on Fox Sports. He's going to call some excellent games this season. He's ready to go. He's fired up, and hopefully this episode makes you fired up for some college football. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. Big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by us. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Watch and like each episode. Leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow the pages there. You're going to get episode updates and news and highlights from everything Pigskin Frenzy in college football. There's also the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. A big and very special thank you to Tim Brando, the legendary Tim Brando, for joining us today. And we also have a very special episode coming up on Tuesday. You're not going to want to miss Pigskin Frenzy then. Follow on all platforms. We're thankful for our Lord and Savior Jesus for blessing us with these great episodes and blessing us with Pigskin Frenzy. Without him, we wouldn't be in this situation with all platforms today. 5,200 listeners, just hit 5,200 listeners. We're going to keep on climbing. Guys, have a great weekend. Our last weekend without college football. So just to let you guys know, our last weekend without college football. We're fired up and we're ready to go. Have a great rest of our weekend. That was Tim Brando. I'm Joel Norris signing off. For everybody out there, please and always stay the course.